Okay, the last system I want to talk about is one I've never seen talked about in nymph fishing, and it's really something we do a lot of. That's upstream nymph fishing. And this is a little different system. I'm going to show you two ways to rig this. But the thing to understand is if you're throwing the line straight upstream, it was frequently called shotgunning, where you cast upstream and let the fly come to you. Things change a little bit. With a system like this one here, we're casting either a little bit upstream and across, and we have to understand that the lead is here, and given that the current is flowing this way, the flies are always going to be in front of the lead. Okay, these flies, the water's going like this, and these flies are going to go in front of the lead, obviously, because the lead's higher or heavier than the flies are, and the current's pushing the flies. So we stand sideways and throw the flies out, let them go, everything's good. But if you throw straight upstream, and you're going to be retrieving back at yourself, things change a little bit. This system here is the one I use if I'm using straight upstream. As you can see here, the lead is at the very end of the tippet, all right? This being the bottom. And there's a reason for that. The systems like this one, like I left this one on the wall, again, here's the bottom, but what you have to understand is the way the water's going. This situation, the way I've got it laid out, the water would be going like this. The current would be flowing this way. The flies are always in front of the lead because the lead's the heaviest thing on the system. These flies are going like this. Now, if we were to throw upstream and we reverse the current, now the current's going to be coming at us this direction. What's going to happen? Well, the lead's still going to be up here, but this fly is now going to go on this side of the lead because the current's going to push the fly back here. It's not going to stay behind the lead. It's going to get in front of it because it's lighter and the current's going to push it. So these things are going to turn around, and suddenly we got the lead up here and the fly down behind it. If the fish eats the fly right here, there's a really good chance he has to run all the way past your lead and move it before you understand that you've got a fish on, because you've had no way to know it's happened. If he picks up this slack, he can play around here. You're never going to feel a thing. So if I use this system here with the lead already upstream of it, and the fish takes this fly, I see it right here because I've got to detect that strike from this point. The reality is that we miss more fish than we hook. I don't care who it is fishing. And so you've got to turn the odds in your favor. So now I've got the current coming back this direction. So I take this system where my lead is the furthest thing away. So I cast upstream. The lead, the heaviest thing, is behind the flies. Now what happens, the bottom's here, and the fish comes up. He takes this, as soon as he touches it, because the lead's behind him, if he takes that fly up here, boom, I feel it instantly. The quicker I can get that fish to detect that he's on the line, the quicker I can set the hook. I've got a little dropper here. I like to do it this way. You can run them in line if you want to, the same way we did with one of the first systems. But I like to run a little dropper, but that's up to you. The key is if you're going to do a lot of upstream nymphing, you get your lead at the very end and put your flies this way. You'll feel the strike immediately. When that fish, I can just touch that rubber leg and I feel it up here. Conversely, if this fly's down below the lead on the other system, if he takes it, he can run 2 feet before I'll know anything's happening. So this one's just a little bit less effective for that style of fishing. This is an upstream style. This is a cross stream or downstream style. Okay. Well, we moved upstream a ways here. We've got a little Betis hatch going on. Moved into some really soft water. I want to show you how to do the upstream deal with the split shot at the very end, and the flies are going to be in line. I tied off the bend of the hook. I put this little stone fly back on, and then up above that I've got my dropper loop, and I've got a little Betis on, a little sunk spinner. With this system you can run your leaders, you can run your indicator higher if you want to, because you're going to be throwing straight upstream. The lead's behind everything, so the flies can't get in front of the lead because it's the heaviest thing and it's behind it. So your indicator can be all the way up to the fly line if you want it to. Just the same hindrance as if it's up by your fly line, you can't reel into it. So, but I'm going to throw it upstream. We're going to fish this little tiny soft pocket water here, and you'll see that I can see every strike because the lead's behind there. The whole thing, I've got it a little bit lengthened out because usually I only run this one about 14, 16 inches between these two. I lengthened this one up a little bit, and likewise on your lead. I've got it about a foot behind it. I've run it as short as, 8 inches behind there, but it's really skinny right here. I just want to lengthen things out. I'm hoping they'll be coming up on the betas on the little dropper, just because I'm seeing them here, but I don't really care what they eat. Usually I don't run quite that big a fly on the bottom, but they've been eating the salmon flies, the stone flies pretty good, so we're going to leave that on for a minute. We're just going to walk right up this. See how soft that water is? This is ideal for doing this type of system because I've got to fish it from back here, and I'll throw straight upstream. I'm going to start real close here. This water's really, really shallow, but because it's been up high for a while, the fish have moved into this softer water, and so I don't really know where they're at. But just like always, before I move into where I think the fish are, I'm going to cover, bonus fish or bonus fish. Take them when you can get them. One thing about this system is it doesn't hang up quite as bad as the ones where you place the lead between the flies, because the flies are usually above, just a little bit above the split shot, so your hooks don't get hung up quite as much. I didn't mention how I keep the split shot from sliding down there. I just do a double or triple overhand, just a granny knot down there. Don't do a single, that's not quite strong enough, but a double or a triple, and it'll stop that split shot from going off the end of your, oops, that little bump there. And it's slow, but it's 1.5 to 2 foot deep right there. If I don't tag bottom here in the next cast or two, I'm going to put a little more weight on there. Some people overweight, some people underweight, and they simply cast further upstream and give it more time to sink. Depending, either way works, but I find usually it's easier if you adjust your weight, because you don't always have the opportunity to cast a long ways above your strike zone. I'm not touching bottom. I haven't touched bottom yet, so I'm gonna add another split shot. I'm gonna have 2 BB shots, or excuse me, 2 B shots. I've got a little smaller shot on now. Just gotta move it around. Pretty sure that you're not supposed to put lead in your mouth, so don't do it. Don't bite the line. One thing that can affect it is if you're using a big fly, that's unweighted like I fish, it's gonna sink slower because it just doesn't sink very quick. If you were using 2 Baetis nymphs, they would get pulled to bottom faster than one big fluffy fly will, like this warbird I've got on. So you've got to adjust for that as well. I'm gonna work both sides of this rock coming at me. Generally, you don't find fish in the push of the front of a rock. They'll be on each side of it. I'm hooking a fish. Yee-hoo. Oh, right over the rock. He's an acrobat. Coming at you. Still eating the stoneflies. upside down, buddy. The lead's power rainbow. Okay. Now, when you fish upstream, you've got to strip all this line in. So normally when I'm nymphing, I don't have to make a false cast. And with this system, you'll see I frequently throw it right into the water in front of me instead of trying to cast lead. I don't try to keep it in the air like this so much. I try to do it with one cast. You don't want to be lead's lead, and when you're casting it, there's room for error. So a lot of times, because I've already fished this water, I'm not so worried about hitting the water a little bit. A lot of times I hit it down so I don't have to do a lot of false casting to, I mean, you can sit here and cast your line out like that, but you'll see I frequently just drop it on the water in front of me. Obviously, if you're worried about fish right there, I mean, I fished it, I usually just set it down like that and do it twice. I just find I get a lot less tangles. I don't care who you are casting. When you've got lead in the system, I'd prefer to do it in one cast if I can. You can see what I've done is I came on this side, I fished here first, and now what I'm doing is I'm just starting to grid this off. I'm going to start here and I'm going to sweep all the way back to the left, because, you know, from the middle of the river, I'm going to go in a foot or two increments, and I'm going to go all the way across here. Kind of the same as when you work the wedge from the side. I'm still trying to be, did you feel that? I'm still trying to be the center of the wedge here so that I'm in position the whole way. I turn my body, not as I go through here. Now I'm right where I think the fish should be. Of course, he's going to hit that rock, so it's going to bump right there. See how it's just tapping a little bit? Tap, 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 tap. Just like that. Got just enough lead on. As I move up a little bit, I'm going to have shallow on the left, shallow on the right, shallow on the left. And it's going to be deep in the middle, so obviously, unless I wanted to change that lead, you know, every time I move up, I'm going to be hindered to fish the center of this current without, and this is where I could cast further upstream, let it sink, 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 and I'm only going to be able to fish right where it is right now, because it's going to take that long to get it to the bottom. Now I just went through where I thought, that's where I think the fish should be. I didn't get anything. I start the whole sequence over again. And the fish just sequentially, just, you know, 1, 2, 3 going across, making my cast. I've moved up 5 feet or so. I haven't mentioned much about fly lines, but there's the thing you have to understand when you're fishing with a indicator, a split shot, 2 flies, is that the dynamics of the cast are totally different than they are with a dry fly. Almost every fly line made today is designed to throw a dry fly. Most of them are designed to throw way too far. They're made to fish, they're made to be hero casters and not actually fish. Too long of tapers, and especially for nymph fishing, you have to have a different type of line. The line I'm using is one I developed with Jim Teeney, and it's made to throw split shot and an indicator. It's got a radical front taper, allows me to just simply do that and cast. What you're looking for with these lines is simply an aggressive taper on the front side of the line. lines that are designed to cast dry flies are designed to, the main part of the line is designed to propel the fly out, and then it's reduces slowly so that you don't have all that energy going like that and whipping your fly over. With an indicator and a split shot and 2 flies, you've destroyed all of the dynamics of that. Ooh, I got to turn over soft and lay down. I need it to pick the thing up and lay it down. So this line has an 18-inch forward tip because I'm not worried about this gentle delivery. And so this fly line in 18 inches goes to double its size. It's hard to tell with that, with the nail knot there, but all the beef of the line is in the forward part of the line, so I can simply flip it over, pick up my indicator, and it just shoots out easily. It floats higher because it's thicker, so if you're not using an indicator, you can see the line. It's a bright line, so you can see it. Most of the nymph lines that were designed, is actually all of them that I've ever seen, they simply put something in the tip, like a color. They changed the color or something like that. But no one addressed the fact that we're throwing split shot and an indicator, and we have to turn it over differently. In the early days, when I was first doing a lot of indicator fishing for steelhead in the Great Lakes, we used pike lines because they had a real aggressive forward taper to throw giant dry flies. But then until this line came out, everything was still either a weight forward with a different color. I never saw one that was designed to actually cast indicators in split shot. The only thing we used to do that you could do was you could cut 8 feet of the front of your line off, and you would have the beef up in the front of the line. But these lines here are designed exclusively 100% to throw split shot and an indicator and generally a 2-fly rig, and do it all day without wearing you out. The fly lines that, if you take a regular dry fly line and do this, you'll see how often the line Did you happen to see that fish rise in the background? That fish was eating, that was an emergent rise. He ate a Baetis. He's right beside my indicator right now. Now, that fish just rose up there while I was talking. You know, you'll hear people say all the time that trout feed 95% of the time underwater. I tried to figure that out one time, and I think it's closer to 99.98 something percent. If you were to calculate that out over the entire day, it's a fraction of a percent actually. So it's not nearly as often as you would think. Now what I'm going to do here is I've just got a long piece of 4X in between here, which is going to allow me to, I'm going to do a 2-fly rig just like I had, but I'm going to cut this line right here. I slid my loop up. I'll show you the versatility of this system right now. I'm going to move that up quite a ways because I still want to have one emerging. And then I'm simply going to cut this and do a blood knot. I'm just going to do a blood knot right here, and I'll be back to the regular 2-fly, the one below the split shot, one above the split shot, and I'll have my dropper loop for the emerger. Now the loop's going to butt into that knot there. I'm going to have my nymph down below, and I'm going to take a BB shot, put it on there, and see, because I'll have that fly. Now these flies will sink quicker than what I had on before with that big stonefly. So I'm back to a 2-fly rig. Took me a minute or two to get it, but this fly is going to ride pretty high in the water column. the way he rose was obviously to a small fly. So I've got 2 small flies on now with a single B shot. I'm going to keep my indicator back a little bit from it. I don't want it all the way down like I was normally nymphing, because I'm going to be pretty close to him because I know exactly where he's sitting. And I'm just going to run that through. Oh, man, he drilled me. First cast through with the emerger. That was a good fish, but now I got a big tree. Well, it worked. First cast through, I had the high fly. I could see the fish when he ate it. He ate the upper fly. I had the Betis on the bottom. He took it in the middle like an emerger. The fly was way up above. I just came unbuttoned. Now we've went through there with a similar fly on the upper and a big stone fly on the lower, and we've probably put 25 casts through there. I switched up, make 1 cast, boom, he eats it. So it just tells you that the versatility, you have to have some versatility to fish the systems properly, but if you'll do it just 1 change, I mean, all it took was a simple change up in flies. I reduced the weight a little bit, got the flies higher in the water column, and bingo. Let's see if he's got a buddy in there. No, no, there he goes. Nice. What do you know? There was 2 in there. Now this little rainbow eats it. So, come here. This one ate the nymph, the brown ate the emerger, but they're both eating the Betis. Now, every one of these fish is eating the dropper, which tells me 2 things. 1, he made a mess, but 2, I'm fishing a sunk spinner. It tells me the system's working for sure, because I'm getting hits virtually every cast.